think so. But so if I just clip and we're oh wait, I don't want to break that. And you're just doing a sound test is what we're doing. I'll hold it while we do it. Test 3, 2, 1. Great. Okay, and you're live now. Okay. Hello, everybody. It's Al. We're getting ready to do the grease briefing. So stay tuned. And now the camera's being moved to me. Hello, everyone. And we'll talk just in a bit. I'll set it right here, or do I give it to you? Right here.
I said that just.
Do you like mango? Oh, you wouldn't like this. It's delicious, though.
Sometimes with habanero.
Yeah, this is spicy with onion. You just tell me. I go to a handheld, and yeah, just clip me in.
Just stick it.
Oh, just in pocket. Okay.
Actually, let's put it on this side where it's sitting. Thank you.
Okay, everybody. If I could have everybody come forward. No sitting in the back. You're going to follow me, Steve? Or try. Hey, I'll try not to move much. But the sound's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a lot of people logged in that are watching. Hey, Richard, if you could help me push everybody. Is Teresa here? Is Teresa here? No. Now, y'all come closer. You know I don't bite.
Yes, you do.
I do bite, actually.
You don't leave scars.
Richard would vouch for that. Hey, how are you? Okay, if everybody would forgive me, I'm going to get it started because there's a number of people in already and want to give you a lot of information. Welcome, first. Very excited. Many of us in the room, for those that weren't with us in Tuscany, this is an event that we all volunteer to participate in as a fundraiser for Sunshine. And our experience in Italy, even with COVID, was absolutely spectacular. And we had a great time in Italy. I think we're going to top Italy this year. I really do think we are.
We all gasped. That's hard to do.
Yeah, right, exactly. Everybody knows Faye, right? My broadcast partner. Faye what? So I welcome you. We are leaving on November 2nd to go to the Eastern Mediterranean. First off, I just want to, well, let me tell you what I'm doing. Richard and I have to really be extra good on this trip. And the reason is because Richard's bringing his parents. I'm so happy. I am happy. I love them, yeah. I've traveled with them many, many times. November 2nd, when you land, Richard and I are going to be very fresh because we're going over early. And what we're doing is I've accepted an invitation to come to Israel, and I'm going to be in Israel and in Jordan. And they're going to show a lot of new LGBT kinds of things that they want to talk about for us to do a news broadcast in Tel Aviv next year. And so, of course, we're going to go and look at that, and then going to get on the Celestial Crystal, the ship that we talked about, and we're going to do a short 4-night cruise looking at the Greek Isles, and then we get off the ship on the day you arrive from the United States. So we'll be all fresh for you at the pier and at the airport rather, and we'll meet you and then get everything started. So first off, let me thank you on behalf of Sunshine Cathedral. Your participation, this is a trip for good because you're helping Sunshine Cathedral in their mission. I hope you're watching their new show, the Queer God Squad. It has launched. It's very interesting. Kevin's doing a great job at it. I wish everybody else would be as good as you on the show, but don't tell them that I said that, right? So it's going to be quite an exciting experience. Let me tell you first off why you should be excited about this. Now, as many of you that went to Israel in my support, volunteering to help Sunshine in this mission, I've been to 147 countries. I have been to every single place that this trip does. Every single place. Many of them multiples of times. Richard's never been, his parents have never been, so it's a great experience for me to do it with Richard. let me tell you why this trip is so incredibly spectacular. In 2013, I think, we worked with a cruise line that was doing Israel and Egypt and Greece and Turkey in one itinerary. And we were going to bring 2,500 guests and 50 queens from RuPaul's Drag Race. And the cruise got canceled. And it got canceled because it was 50 queens from RuPaul's Drag Race and got canceled. And I think this was like 2012. Impossible, just impossible. A lot has changed. Now, there's some complications in this trip, but nothing that we can't navigate. But why this trip for you is so special, regardless the past or the future. The reason this trip is so spectacular is, first, we're not in a gay charter. In an LGBT gay charter, they're picking and choosing very specifically. For example, Atlantis, which does a fantastic job, went to a port in Turkey that no one had ever heard of before. And the reason is the city said, of course we'd like 3,000 gay people to come to a place that nobody had ever heard of before. And so they got to visit Turkey. Ephesus sometimes is like that. Egypt becomes much more complicated. It's just a destination that's complicated. 3 religions, and it's complicated. So I tell you first and foremost, every single moment you're on this trip, you should be thinking how incredibly special this is. Because the combination of ancient democratic civilization of Greece, and specifically Athens, and Port Said and the Giza Plateau and the new National Egyptian Museum, which I haven't seen. I just can't wait to see it because it got postponed because of pandemic and reopening. I saw the old exhibit in Cairo. Going from Egypt to Israel and being able to do Tel Aviv if you want, but especially Jerusalem and Bethlehem, and then Greek or Eastern Mediterranean, Rhodes and Cyprus, and then Kusadasi for Ephesus. And Ephesus is considered the most important historic ancient wonder of the world in Asia, especially Western Asia. You could get into argument in China, but certainly in terms of Western Asia. And we're doing all of this in one trip. To do this, if you were flying, would kill you. First off, to fly between Tel Aviv and Cairo is beyond difficult. Most people do it on land, and it takes about 14 hours by bus. And so we're doing it in the comfort of a ship. And this is, I think, going to be a very special experience because we are combining in this itinerary. It was one of the reasons for Sunshine we zeroed right in on it. And I'll tell you a little more about Celestial in a moment. All right. Why I think it's special. Now, zeroing in, I'm going to give you lots of notes. This is the first, every month, Sunshine will do this, and we'll talk about different kinds of things as we go. The number one thing is, after tonight, in terms of general information, to have this gathering where everybody can interact with each other. We'll spend much more time. All of our Italy guests know. One of the things that made Italy so great is so many people knew each other, but the time they got to Italy. That's what we want to do because we want everyone to, there's about just short of 60, I think, of us. We all want to know each other because when Faye is late to the bus every morning, oh, fortunately this time. That's so nut. I was lying there, wasn't I? Right? No. We're all friendly with each other. We know each other. We know each other's quirks. We know when we get together for a happy hour who drinks how much wine. Oh, wait, I might be talking about me. Or how many double espressos. Oh, I'm probably talking about Richard. Yes, exactly. Multiple people just said Richard immediately. So we all know each other. And that's half of this experience, of us all doing it together and having fun. And this is different because Monocattini was like, we said, it's like a land cruise. We're in the same hotel for 10 nights doing breakfast and dinner daily. It kind of feels like a cruise. Well, now we're on a cruise. and so it's really that kind of experience. So That's what we're going to do in the coming months leading up to the trip. Every month we'll do more and more, meeting more and more, refreshments, etc. All right, first off, passports. Remind you right now, look at your passport. When does it expire? If it expires within 6 months of November 2nd, 2023, renew your passport. And I only remind all of us to do that because passports are being delayed. And the reason they're being delayed is they're getting record applications after pandemic for passports. So don't get caught late on your passport. You must have it. Next, transatlantic flights. If you haven't ticketed, no problem at all, zero problem. You should start searching for your flights. If you like kayak or whoever a favorite is, maybe you have a favorite airline with frequent flyer, whatever it is, start to put that in and let them continue to search and give you notices on your flight. There is no point-to-point to Athens, first off. You're not going to find point-to-point from South Florida and anywhere in Florida, for that matter, to Athens. You're going to connect. I highly recommend you pay attention to your connections. I personally think connections, well, people want to have as quick as possible. Giving yourself about a 3-hour connection someplace domestically in the US or in Europe, if you're going to do that, is a really good idea. One of the things that I would recommend to you is in the fall, I don't know if you've heard, El has a new nonstop flight coming to and from Tel Aviv from Fort Lauderdale. And El Al serves Miami now. And so you can connect through Tel Aviv. A very good connection. It's a little longer, but it's what Richard and I did for Italy. We flew Turkish. And Turkey has all kinds of incentives of a stay in Istanbul. The airport is spectacular, arguably one of the 2 or 3 best in the entire world, and they have incentives of pre and post stays in Istanbul at no cost with transfers in hotels. So you might want to look into that because you can easily connect Istanbul to Athens. And then of course the American carriers, depending on connection, have nonstop service. Dallas, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, all have connection service to Athens, but you should start searching for your flights now. Any questions about air?
We were able to get a really nice flight. We're going into London and then from London to Athens.
Great.
But we're going to, because we got such a good deal, we had to go a few days early. Have they made arrangements, perhaps at the hotels will accept us the same, someplace that we would?
Oh, you need to, yes, just like in Italy, David can help with that. But you tell us the specifics of that and we can help, David can help you with the transfer and the hotel accommodations. And you for sure want him to do that because it would be a hassle for you to do it otherwise. But if you have any deviations like that, of course.
I heard that the passports are taking 90 days to get them.
You can make an appointment and walk into the Miami passport office. You make an appointment to do it. If you had emergency need, you could get a passport, within 7 or 8 days. And you can go through a passport agency and get a passport in 2 days. Still, they walk it into the National Passport Office in Washington, D.C. But don't do that. You're going to pay a very significant amount of money for that service. So plan on it now. Look at your passport, make sure it's valid, should be valid for 6 months. Renewal is very fast versus first application. There's nobody well, no, I'm not going to ask it that way. Everyone in the room has a passport, yes? Yes. Okay, so this is no issue at all. Okay. Anything else on flights? Eastern Mediterranean. Let me make a comment about the Eastern Mediterranean. It's not Fort Lauderdale. Exact same thing I started last year in helping our Sunshine group. If you go to Italy expecting it to be Fort Lauderdale, you're going to be very disappointed, period. Exclamation mark, another period. It's not. Americans going to Europe frequently are surprised in that if you want the kind of stay that you would have here or experience, you're going to the Hilton or Marriott and paying $400, $500, $600 a night in Athens or wherever you go in Europe. Athens is a beautiful cosmopolitan city. I think there's 12 million people in Athens, but it is different. Buildings are older, and it's just a different experience. They don't move at the speed that Americans do. They don't understand our "I want it right now" kind of thing. And everybody got used to that, I think, especially in Tuscany when we were in Montecatini. It's a great town, especially in comparison to Florence, which is why it was selected. And it worked out great for us, but it wasn't because they moved to our need. We understood what they could provide, and then it became a great experience. The Eastern Mediterranean is the exact same thing. Also, the great benefit of this trip is that you're going to see dramatic changes in culture. Athens culture is completely different than going outside the city into countryside, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. It's completely different than going to the Giza or to Cairo in Egypt. It's completely different to Israeli. And I haven't been to Israel since all of this kind of wacky political stuff has started. And for me, it's going to be interesting to see that. Been to Ephesus many times, and Ephesus and Kusadasi especially, is a very small town compared to 22 million people in Istanbul. So they handle and they embrace LGBT completely different, and it's a different experience. And we're seeing 4 major different cultural experiences. So I just ask you to begin now to get yourself in the mindset that this is the Eastern Mediterranean, and Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. And that's the way we need to look at it. Okay, food, yes, please.
Do we need any visas?
You do not? Yes, but no, because it's all handled by the ship. For you, the only place you're traveling to, for your standpoint, is Athens and to Greece. Everything else will be handled. Okay? Food and, yes, please. And y'all just, I'm going to tell you all about that. Yeah. Food, anything else? Eastern Mediterranean being different. Food and water. I'm always cautious on food and water. Always. Always. There's no food in the world that is worth risk in traveling. Your time is precious. 13 days, it's precious. You want to have no time, if possible, and can be prevented in illness. Okay? I'm always cautious about eating foods off of street vendors. In New York, by the way, but anywhere, and especially in the Eastern Mediterranean, I would be cautious about that. I would be paying attention to the restaurants that you choose in recommendation. We're going to help with that extensively. That's the value of us all traveling together. So pay attention to your food choices. The number one thing that everyone you read always say about people that travel, especially to the Eastern Med, you don't eat like this, and therefore it creates reaction for you. So be prepared for that. The most important is water. Let me tell you right now, I would not drink water anywhere on this trip, period. At all. On the ship, but nowhere else. Even in Athens, I wouldn't drink the water. Every liquid that I consume is bottled or canned, no exception. I will have no fluid issues on this trip because my rule is absolute, and I recommend that you adopt that rule. Any other thing, you're just taking some chance.
Even coffee?
Beveraged, because of the heating, coffee is okay. Alcohol mixed is okay. I'm not a big fan generally in Europe, but definitely in Eastern Europe, except on the ship, of salads and fresh fruits that are washed. I would not eat a salad on the Giza. We're going to have lunch. For those of you going to the Giza, I would not eat raw vegetables or salad. It's no disrespect. It's just for me, it's not, the lettuce is not important enough for me to consume, and that's just a philosophical thought. Yeah, on the ship, and yeah, we'll pay close attention to it. We will continue to provide recommendations. In Egypt, it's cola out of the can. Alcoholic beverages, you're completely safe with. But no problem with the alcohol, right? Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, right. Right.
Now, I had some friends who have traveled at some point in Egypt, and they also recommended that perhaps local fish was not a good idea.
Yeah.
Again, not on the ship, but
Yeah.
that you might want to be a little cautious
Yeah.
because you don't know the source of the
For
water.
everyone at home, the question is about fish in Egypt. Broadly, and let's say really broadly today, food we're going to pay a lot of attention to. Water, ice, we'll pay a lot of attention to. We'll continue to give you updates of best advice as we get closer and on the trip, because we don't want any sickness, period, the end, we don't, okay? Next, insurance. Do you have it? If your answer is no, you need to contact David tomorrow. If your answer is no, you need to go online and do something about insurance tomorrow. Now, I say that so emphatically because you're not worried. You can't. If you had a pre-existing condition, you can insure against that now. You're not worried about your payment on the trip now. This is July 7th, well, whatever today's date is. 6th, thank you. You're not worried about the amount of money you paid on this trip. And fortunately, by the way, it's a great price. But you don't care about that. It's the medical, period. Please, I'm telling you emphatically, if you have a fall because you've tried to climb the Great Pyramid, which you can't do, by the way, but if you have a fall and you break your hip, the emergency evacuation is probably going to be in the neighborhood of $150,000. And when they turn to you and say, which credit card would you like to put that on? The insurance company goes, this one, and that's it. Don't play around on this trip. You can't. You just can't. It's too remote. It's too exotic. It's very safe, but it's the medical and evacuation that's really critical. If you have a major medical and they say, Kusadasi can't deal with whatever the issue is, we want to fly you to Istanbul, and the insurance company goes, oh, no, you're not sending Faye to Istanbul, she's going to Rome. They pay it. Here's the money. She's going to Rome. Or no, she's going to Miami. And if we have to do a private air ambulance, she's going to Miami, right? You just don't know what's going to happen. Yeah.
Yes, if you get insurance, I just got back from Europe, and when I went, I got the insurance through my airline. Because when you go to buy the ticket, it's called a lens,
Yeah.
and it covered health, it covered cancellation trip.
Yeah.
Is that good enough?
Al, repeat his question.
Yes, for people at home, the question was purchasing insurance through your airline. Okay, if you're satisfied with it. For me, I would not do that. I would go, first, I would contact David. I know for sure that Rome Right is going, they've covered the significant number of guests on this trip, which is an insurance company. Or I would go onto the website and look, travel insurance, Travel Guard, AIG, other kinds of companies like that. That's what I would really recommend. And the thing that you want to look at now is how much medical insurance coverage do you have while traveling, and how much emergency evacuation insurance. Those are the only two things that are important to you now, not how much money you've spent on the trip. It covers that too if something happens between now and November 2nd, as long as it's not a pre-existing condition. So my answer would be, if you're comfortable with it, that's fine. But make sure you do the right research. And I would not travel on this trip without insurance. Emphatic in my statement. Any other questions?
We bought insurance, but today we bought the post extension.
Yeah.
Are we covered?
Yeah. You did that through David?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask David that question. It's easily modified.
Okay.
But make sure that he knows, and your trip has to be modified to do that, because you want to be covered from departure USA to arrival USA. Okay? Anything else on insurance?
You might want to check
Mm-hmm.
and Rosemary, I've been with them for a while, and they're right out in the plantation, and you might call and see what they cover.
Yeah. Thank you. My only caution historically in listening to insurance plans is and that's not what she did, and that's not what he did. But historically, when I hear insurance conversation, it's how can we skirt around it in the cheapest, easiest way? Don't. Make sure you're completely comfortable in the coverage that you have in your insurance. This is an important decision, and it's not important to you until you fall and break a hip. You understand what I mean? So that's on insurance. Next, the hotels. Whether you're in Athens, everybody's in Athens, at least a portion, or in Santorini and Mykonos. Hotels in Greece are smaller. For all of the ones that in the room that went to Tuscany, similar. Generally, hotels range between 50 and about 120 rooms, generally. In Athens, maybe a little smaller in Mykonos and Santorini. The thing that I always caution people about is when you walk into your hotel in either of those three cities, the first thing that you're going to notice instantly is the elevator. And you think it's a reflection of the quality of the hotel. It is not. The hotel was built like that. Greek hotels were built like that. Tuscan hotels were built like that. French hotels were built like that. You might get 4 people on the elevator, if you're lucky, and they're not Americans, right? So you can't think of it that way. You disconnect. You're not going to the W. You're just not. And so start to think about it that way. Breakfast is included. They'll do a nice, what they call a European American breakfast, but you'll be satisfied with it in all 3 hotels. And restaurant in the hotel. If you want to do dinner, I would, unless it was included, and then this, different than what we did in Tuscany, not included, and the reason is which I'll tell you in a minute. But hotels are important. The bedding, there's no king beds, period. There's no king beds. So if it's 2 of you and you want to be in a bed, it likely is going to be a queen bed. If it's 2 of you who want 2 beds, it's likely going to be 2 twin beds. That's Greece. That's Eastern Europe. That's Europe. So I just prepare you on that. So that's the bedding and the rooms. Any questions about the hotels? I'm going to tell you about those specifically in a moment. Next, public affection. Now, we are LGBT. We don't want to be told what to do. However, there are norms on the ground that we have to pay attention to. Egypt at the top of the list. Now, Egypt is completely aware of you. Completely aware. They have no problem at all. In fact, they're going to do several very special things for us on the day that we come into Port Said, both at Giza and in Cairo. However, the cultural norm in Egypt, men can never kiss. They cannot hold hands. I'm just telling you, you make your own decisions, but you're not in Kansas anymore. And as a result, you have to decide, wait, at the minimum, I respect the cultural norm. I hate it. I completely disagree with it, but it is what it is. And we decide, well, I want this experience. And I think when you come back, you'll say, my goodness, I have a completely different impression. But we have to give them the opportunity to give us that impression. If we go in roaring protest, I'll show you. It's just, I'll do everything I can. Okay? A little bit less in Ephesus and in Turkey. Erdogan is not our community's friend by any stretch of the imagination, but Kusadasi is like Fort Lauderdale in Turkey. It's as close as you get in Turkey to a complete embracement of the LGBTQ community, as long as you don't kiss or hold hands. And then Israel, there's no issue. Cyprus, there is no issue. Rhodes, there is no issue. Athens, there is no issue. But there's degrees of the public affection, and we just should pay attention to that and just start to digest my observation, and we will talk more about it as the months go on, as we approach. Everybody understands what I'm talking about, right? Okay. Excursions. Everything that we do is private. We will not mix with other guests at the hotel. We won't mix with other guests on the ship. Anything that we have been able to get the ship to arrange, like what we've done in Egypt and in Ephesus, will all be exclusively the Sunshine and the LGBT group. So everything is designed for an LGBT and ally group. Everything that's being done is for us. So everything that you participate in, you have complete comfort in that it's safe, and everyone understands who you are and what you are and what Sunshine is all about and what the LGBTQ community is in South Florida. Excursions. And that will start. We'll show you what the ship has arranged, what they've arranged in Athens starting next month. The onboard program on the ship will be daily. There will be multiple events on the ship. We're LGBT, which means we want to have fun, and we will. So an onboard program is coming. Money. It's the euro. The euro dollar is really good. I have been to Europe at €1 was 1.5 USD. Today, it's $1.09. So your money is going to go a long way on the trip, and I don't expect there will be any change of that in terms of money. Don't buy your money in advance. I always get asked that question. Don't do that. Don't spend 2 seconds thinking about it. Even if you go into your international gateway, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, whatever it might be, wait till you arrive in Athens or wherever it is that you're going to arrive, and then do money. Because remember, if you get too much money, you're paying exchange both in and out. So you're managing your money pretty closely. And you'll be able to buy money on the ship too. They'll sell you money. Any questions about money? Next, we encourage you to invite friends and family, because anyone that travels with you now, you have an incentive for that Sunshine is doing, and it helps Sunshine Cathedral. So I just encourage you to invite your friends and family on this experience. It is really, really quite unique. All right, now let's go through the itinerary, and we're going to show you some pictures as we go. First, November 2nd, and that's the last time I'll say a date because I can't keep it in my head. I'm going to do it by days. So on day 1, we have overnight flight. Has anyone not been to Europe? Few people, okay. It can be a grueling experience. Athens is quite a good flight, depending on where your connection is going to be. It's a good flight. The number one issue on a transatlantic flight to Europe is jet lag. It is real. You're generally going to leave in the late afternoon, early evening, depending on where your connections are. You will arrive the next morning in Athens between 7 and 11 o'clock in the morning, depending on what your connections are. You're not going to be able to check into your hotel to 3 or 4 o'clock, and you must stay up that entire day. You cannot barely even walk into your hotel room, because you'll be tempted to get in bed, and it will spoil the first 3 days of your trip. It is called jet lag, and it's real. We know this, and we'll do everything we can to help you stay up on day 2 on your arrival, at least until 10 p.m. We'll work very hard, and we'll talk about this over and over again of how we're going to do that. On the second day, when you arrive, regardless of what flight, David will be getting your arrival flight information, and transfers are provided for you. If you come in at 11 o'clock at night, and you're the only 2 people coming in at 11 o'clock at night, you'll have representation that'll meet you with your name on it and transfer you privately to the hotel. So you have no worries on your transfers on the second day of arrival. Now, we'll show you, we're staying at the Candia Hotel. And the Candia Hotel in Athens is a 4-star hotel. Now, the great news about selecting the Candia, and we're going to show you a pool, another picture. They've got a great pool and view here. And the view you're looking at is quite special because, show the next picture, you're 1.4 miles from the Acropolis. So you are dead center. The reason this is great is you can get out and walk everywhere. You can be in the Placa in like 1.2 miles. The Candia is great, not too large. I think it's about 100 rooms, and so it'll be great for us. And, yes?
How is it spelled?
Candia. And for everyone at home, we'll summarize all of this, and it's going to be sent to you, so you'll see all of the details. 1.5 miles from the Acropolis. The first night on day 2, we're going to do something into the Placa. Not dinner in the hotel, because we want to try to help get you out of the hotel and get you to move. And Placa is on the other side of the Acropolis. The view that you just saw, it's on the direct other side. The Placa is old Athens. When the Temple of Athena was built, they lived in the Placa. That was the city of Athens, and it has been for nearly 3,000 years. It's on the other side of the Acropolis, and it's a beautiful area where some of the most interesting restaurants, shops, etc. are. And that evening, we'll go there just to keep you up and moving around, so we can keep you entertained to get you back to the hotel by 10-ish, and then you go to bed. So that's what we'll do on the first day, arriving day 2. On day 3, it's going to be the day that we're boarding the ship. The ship has arranged sightseeing this day and a private visit to the Acropolis Museum. It's an excursion that they will provide, and you're going to be able to walk up the Acropolis. Everyone, the Acropolis is accessible for everyone. Those that have walking mobility issues, it has to be slower. One time I went to the Acropolis and was 500 pounds, and I could do it. So it's possible. And one thing that I should say, which is less difficult on this trip than Italy. We went to so many medieval villages. The walking is easier on this trip. First, because we're on the ship, and lots of the excursions are coach generated to places where you won't have quite the degree of some places vehicle just couldn't get to in Italy, and so you had more walking. But sightseeing, and then we're going to go to the ship on day 3, and we're going to Piraeus. And Piraeus is the port city of Athens. It's about 30 minutes from where we are in central Athens. It's a beautiful fishing village, and it has a pier for the ships to sail. Greece has cabotage laws. If you haven't heard of that phrase before, unless you have a Greek flag, you're not allowed to sail from a Greek port to a Greek port and embarking and disembarking unless you have a Greek flag. No one has a Greek flag except Celestial Cruise Lines, which is why we're using them, because their flag allows this itinerary. Royal Caribbean can't do this, Carnival can't do this, etc., 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 because they're not Greek flags. In Piraeus, then we're going to board the Celestial Cruise. Now, we haven't announced this, but you're not boarding the Crystal, the Celestial Crystal. And the reason is because the Celestial Crystal is continuing to sail, but they've modified the itinerary. Right now, they have bought for Celestial a new ship, and it is it's undergoing a $20 million renovation as we speak. The ship will come out of its wet dock after its $20 million renovation as the Celestial Journey. And we are now sailing on the Celestial Journey, appearing for the first time in the 3rd week in September. So we're going to be on it of this fresh makeover. Now, the real great value of this is many, if experienced cruisers in the room, know this platform. This is Holland America's Rhine Dam. And the Rhine Dam, I'm excited about it. I sailed on the inaugural of this ship. I'm excited about it is the ship is twice the size of the Celestial Crystal and carries only 200 more passengers. So the Rhine Dam platform carrying just 1,200 guests is going to be great for us. And this is a much newer, it's 20 some years newer than the Crystal was. This is not a new ship. I believe it was 92, 94, something like that. And 55,000 tons, carries approximately 1,200 passengers, and will board the Celestial Journey. So I'm very happy of our access to that. Yes?
And so the rooms and the cabins that we,
The same categories. It was all seamlessly moved. Yeah, same thing. Okay, so that's what we'll do. The next day on day 4, we'll be at sea, and we'll have a day at sea, lots of stuff that we'll do at sea. Then on day 5, we come to Port Said. And who in the room is participating already in the advanced excursion that was offered, the excursion to the Giza Plateau? Raise your hand. Okay. If you haven't, I'm just telling you, I highly recommend you do it. And first off, you can't walk off the ship in Said. You can, but you wouldn't. There's nothing, it's a port, and it's not a historically significant port for Egypt. And you're about 2 hours from, and even a little longer depending on traffic, to Giza and to Cairo. So I highly recommend that you pre-plan on this day, whether you do it with the group that the ship is doing the special excursion for us, or you arrange something on your own. On this day, you'll go to the Giza Plateau, of course, sites for the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid and the other pyramids in Giza. It's right outside of Cairo. A lot of people, has anybody been to the Giza? One? Just one person in the room, okay. A lot of people are surprised how close it is to the city. And it's a strange feel of that, and we'll do that. We'll have lunch. I believe lunch is going to be at one of the big mammoth deluxe hotels in Giza, and then to Cairo for sightseeing. And the big feature is the National Museum, the National Archaeological Museum. This is where King Tut is housed, and you're going to be there for a tour of the National Museum. It is the greatest, it's arguably the greatest archaeological museum in the world. Now there's a few museums that would argue with that, including the Vatican, but in terms of the age, you know, and that it wasn't stolen, I'm a big supporter of the Archaeological Museum. Yes?
So that's 3 different stops there for that day?
3 different stops. We'll go to Giza, then sightseeing in Cairo, and to the National Archaeological Museum. Right? It's full day. It's all included in that tour with lunch. And it's a very long day. The ship will stay, I think, until 10 o'clock even. They stay very late that day to be able to do this event. And of course, you want to see all of that. Thanks, y'all, for coming. You enjoyed the show. Okay. All right, that's day 5. Any questions about Egypt? One last thing. We are working, yes?
So I'm assuming there's going to be a bus waiting.
Bus, that's right. All of this is private arrangement. Yeah, yeah.
Bathrooms on the bus?
No, stops. In Europe, there's no bathrooms on the bus. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, the question was, will there be bathrooms on the bus? No. In Europe, the same companies, Belgium mostly, builds the Van Hoels, the coaches that come here to the United States. We see the bathrooms on those coaches in the United States. The Europeans lock them because they think it's disgusting to carry the toilet along with them, so they don't use it. Frankly, that's it. It will be there, but you can't use it. And so multiple stops will be made to make sure you have bathroom. One last thing about Egypt that I would say to you is that the day's experience, we're trying very, very hard. If we accomplish it, we won't be able to be public about it, certainly beforehand, and maybe not even afterhand because of safety concerns. But we are, and we have a good lead on a guide for the day that is gay. And if we can accomplish that, we will. We can't promise that yet, but we're well on their way to doing that. So we'll keep you in the know on that. Any questions on Egypt?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How are the streets? You know how in Italy I couldn't wear my heels?
Right. Okay. Here's my Fay advisory, my first of many Fay advisories. Fay advisory number 1, don't bring any good shoes. Fay's now deciding whether she's going to continue on the trip or not. But she has a great question, because cobblestone, Plaka is 3,000 years old. Ephesus, you're going to walk on the street that St. John the Baptist did his final preaching on. What kind of streets? You know, that's what it is. So tennis shoes, comfortable walking shoes, comfortable walking shoes. And they've got to be comfortable walking shoes. What's the number one reason why?
Cobblestone.
Sorry?
Cobblestones?
Yeah, yes, but that's not the number one reason why. There you go. So you don't fall. You've got to wear good, comfortable shoes to prevent falling. No injuries. Always looking down, always looking around, paying attention to surroundings, etc. That's the reason why. Thank you, Faye, for helping me with that. The next day, one of the reasons I'm in love with this itinerary, we're at the Giza Plateau at the Sphinx one day and King Tut, and Israel the next. It's just, you can't do this. If I wanted to be in Tel Aviv and be in Cairo one day after another, the amount of work to accomplish that is just monumental. And we get on a ship to do it. I love that. I really, really do. We're going to be docking in Ashdod. Ashdod is really a port city, but it really is a metropolitan suburban city on the Mediterranean for Tel Aviv. Now, Tel Aviv is a great gay city. They have a great pride. And in my opinion, unless you're really, really interested in that, that's not the day. You only have one day. That's the disadvantage of a cruise, but not really, because you're getting to see so many different things. The ship is going to have a special excursion that's going to go to Jerusalem, and it'll do comprehensive for our group that you can do of Jerusalem and Bethlehem. And the only disappointing thing about this day is it's just a shame that with our group we don't have anybody that knows anything about the Bible. If we did, thank you for laughing. Thank you. You didn't laugh, by the way. All right. So we'll make our our preachers work that day, right?
Yeah, where's the grill?
A list of where we can go in and where we might need tickets for, like, I'm thinking church as a whole.
Oh, yeah. In terms of the excursion, it will include everything. I can't tell you that at this second. That is a very, very technical, important question. I don't know that yet. But everything that we do timing-wise, it will include everything that you need to do. It'll be turnkey for you. Yes.
Will we be able to book these excursions before?
In advance. They'll be ready. I've already seen the platform summaries of them, and they're still working on the revisions, because we've asked for many things related to the nature of our organization, of sunshine and LGBT, and incorporating LGBT in them. So that's what they're working on.
Will we be notified?
Yeah. Oh, you're going to be. You'll be able to do it all in advance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I was confused, because we did buy a couple of excursions.
Yes,
Yes.
and we did those specifically because when this group was being negotiated with Celestial, it was a very specific requirement of Giza and Ephesus to ensure that they would not close, and that was the issue that we were concerned about. So they did that in advance at that special price. There are others like this in Israel that you'll be able to, but we were not as concerned about the availability of doing that. That is more for our Sunshine group that we were concerned about. Any questions about Israel? Day 7, we go to Cyprus. Cyprus is a beautiful island. It's the largest in the deep eastern Mediterranean. It is very progressive. The most progressive, Cyprus and Madeira are the most embracing LGBT in the eastern Mediterranean. And beautiful island, mountains, lots of wineries, and big LGBT nightlife, for example. We're not there for that, but a lot of LGBT in community, and they have an excursion that is a coastal that shows you the best of Cyprus, and that's on day 7. On day 8, and I think we're going to show you Rhodes, and A lot of people do not realize, can you show the one with the Colossus? I think it's the next one maybe. Rhodes is most famous for maybe, we might not have it, Steve, I'm not sure. It might be one of the photos that didn't. If you've heard of the 10 ancient wonders of the world, Rhodes was one of the places. A 228-foot statue was built nearly 2,000 years ago, and called the Colossus of Rhodes. And it was a soldier with his legs on 2 islands of the entrance into Rhodes. And you're going to sail into that entrance. And when we do, they'll make mention, oh, this is where the statue stood over you. And it's really just an incredible, and look at pictures of the Colossus of Rhodes. On this day in Rhodes, a Greek island, very beautiful. It is medieval. It's different than definitely different than Athens, in that it is much more medieval. It had a gigantic earthquake and then a fire. So that's what caused the loss of the Colossus and much of the old city. And in the rebuild of the old city, it was built in medieval architecture. And so it's a beautiful city to walk around in, and very different than Athens or in Lindos. And so they offer an excursion there. And then the other big thing that'll be included is Lindos. I'm not sure if we have pictures, of Lindos. Lindos has its own Acropolis. And Lindos is interesting because it's a classic Greek white city. When you saw Mamma Mia and the white landscape, Santorini is the most famous of all of the cities in Greece of the white villages, which is what they're called. Oia is, and Lindos in Mykonos. And the excursion that they will arrange does the medieval portions of Rhodes, but goes on to the other side of the island to Lindos. And you'll go to the Acropolis in the White City. And it's really quite beautiful. The narrow lanes with the canvassing covers over the lanes. It's quite beautiful. Then on day 9 to Kusadasi. Kusadasi is the gateway for Ephesus. Now, if you did the pre-advance on Ephesus, it's about a half-day excursion. The other half of day is in Kusadasi. There is one thing to do. Any of you that want to shop, this is the place. And the reason is, in all of the places in the world, I would make a very good argument that Turkey is among the best shopping places in the world because they steal everything. You can buy Gucci for 25 cents on the dollar and would almost impossible recognize that it's not produced by Gucci, because Turkey does not protect copyright, registration marks. And so store after store, name your designer. Let me show you my Louis Vuittons. Let me show you and it's all fake. And they're really clear about it being all fake. And you go, my gosh. And it's fun. Even if you don't buy anything, go into the stores and shop for Louis Vuitton. It's very, very fun. And that's what you do in Kusadasi. So that's what you do, yeah.
So what happens when you come back through customs?
Absolutely nothing. Well, first off, if it was me, these are my clothes that I brought with me. So you're not getting that, right? Then Ephesus, and we're going to show you, I believe, a few pictures of Ephesus. I told you it is, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's considered one of the 10 ancient wonders of the world. It is breathtaking. The first time I went, imagine, thank you so much. Imagine Las Olas, from one end of Las Olas, as you get to the intercoastal, to Federal. That's what Ephesus is in length. Then imagine about a quarter to a half a mile wide, and then for it all to be walled. That's Ephesus. It is really spectacular. You will start on this tour at one end, and they will walk you through the city, literally. Ephesus is really important because after Jesus was crucified, Mary escapes to Ephesus. John the Baptist escapes to Ephesus. He builds a new church, his final preaching church in Ephesus. And I'm not sure you see the House of Mary on the tour. I don't really know that for sure. But probably you do, but I'm not sure. But you'll walk through and you'll see these sites, that amphitheater, which is also quite famous. You're literally walking through history. The other thing that's fantastic, it's not included in your tour, but we will make sure that we encourage them to leave enough time to do it, is the terrace houses. And the terrace houses are spectacular in Ephesus because they are the most pristine Roman residences in the world, even outside of Italy. They're more important. And the reason is because they basically were not harmed or destroyed like the upper echelon houses were, certainly in Pompeii because of the volcano, or in Rome near the Forum. They're preserved in Ephesus. In fact, they're so important, they have built an entire building complex to enclose the terrace houses and climate control it. It is so important to see. And literally, in seeing it, you're seeing 200 BC of the wealthiest in the empire and how they lived, and seeing the terrace houses. So I'll remind you of that closer as we get there. Any questions about Ephesus and Kusadasi?
I have 2 questions. Al, weather. Talk about
Thank you.
when is November. That's the first question. The second question is, when we went to Italy, you really prepared us to act lightly, and we did.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah. Bring half of everything you think you need.
Just like you.
Faye is a lot of fun to travel with. Bring half of everything. We'll talk a lot more on that as we get through. Not more than that. Bring less. I'm a big believer. You can't travel to the number of places that I have traveled to. I just, by the way, over the weekend, just came back. I rode in Medellin Pride as a marshal in the parade in Colombia. And you don't need to bring the clothes. The cruise is super casual. You know, there's going to be nobody that raises an eyebrow on anything. So you don't have to do that. And you want to have a good time. In terms of weather, it's going to be moderate to cool, but definitely not cold. A few days that we had in Tuscany, we won't have anything like that. We're topping out at probably the coolest. You know, things happen. We're in the hottest week in the history of the world, by the way. I don't know if you heard that announcement. Not just the day now. This week is the hottest week in the history of this planet. We won't get any cooler than the low 50s. And that will be in Athens. And it gets warmer from there. So it's very moderate. You know, so if you get cold easy, a sweater, but probably not more.
All the mask N95 is still required?
Thank you. Medical COVID. The COVID restrictions to fly back into the United States are gone. Mask mandates in all of the places that we're traveling to are gone. There's no regulation of COVID. However, thank you for bringing that up. Richard and I are right at the cusp right now of a booster. And it's a question. I just provide a recommendation to you. If I wasn't willing to see what happens for October, I'd get the booster now. Because it can't do one harm to me to get the booster. Can't harm me at all. One sec. But we're waiting till October because the new strain is going to appear in the new virus booster, in the new shot. So we're going to wait, and even if it gets delayed, then we're still going to get the COVID shot. And you need to give yourself 2 to 3 weeks of doing it. In my opinion, I'm only speaking for me, it cannot harm me. So therefore, I'm going to do it. That's what I'm going to do.
And the forms that we filled when we were traveling to Italy on the airline?
All gone.
All gone?
Yep. Okay. Sorry?
That's great, we don't have to take it.
Yes, that's right. No testing yeah. Okay, then on day 10, we arrive back in Athens. Now first, the guests that are continuing on doing the post tour, they're going to leave us as they come off the ship. We will transfer them to the airport. Just quickly to tell you, we're going to show the hotel in Mykonos. You're staying in the Olia Hotel. And the Olia Hotel is fantastic. Do we have one picture or more? Just the one. Olia Hotel is on the Old Town seafront, so you'll be able to walk to everything. You're 1,000 feet from the ferry terminal, and terminal is a glamorous word for Mykonos, but you're right dead center in everything, so you'll be able to walk to everything from the Olia. And then in Santorini, you're going to stay at the Nissos Thea. And it's hard to tell. We have one picture of the Nissos. Okay, it's hard to tell here, but Santorini is quite breathtaking. It's the pictures that you see of the White City of Greece is Santorini, is Fira, which is the main city in Santorini, and Santorini is a volcano that exploded and was so devastating that it just completely sank into the ocean. And the curvature of the islands are what remains of this supervolcano. And as a result, when you come to Santorini, for those of you who are doing this on an individual basis, Santorini and Fira is at the top of the cone crest of the mountain. I forgot, 2,000 feet up, I think, and there's two ways to get to the top. One is by a gondola. You're coming in by the airport, so we're going to bring you to the hotel, but you'll want to do this as a sightseeing. You can do it by gondola to go down to the water, or the best thing to do is to get on the mules and ride the mule down or the mule back up. Do the gondola in one way and the mule in the other. And it's fabulous. It's just absolutely fabulous. And in the hotel, can you show the hotel again? The Nissos Thera, the gondola station at the top in Fira is ground zero in the city of Fira, and you're 600 yards from the gondola station. So you can walk everywhere in Santorini. So those that leave us, we'll say goodbye to them going on to Mykonos. In Athens, when we come off the ship, you'll be transferred to the hotel, but we'll remind you clearly in the documentation, rooms will not be ready until approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The ship is going to offer an excursion to a very famous region in southern Greece called Cape Sunion. And Cape Sunion is where the Temple of Poseidon is, and it is breathtaking. It's the very southern tip of Greece, and when the Temple of Athena was built, same time as the Temple of Poseidon, and it's an excursion that does the southern tip of the mainland of Greece. And then this begins our first night checking into the same hotel that we stayed in the first night. Then on day 11 we have and day 12 we have 2 days at leisure in Athens. What the ship has arranged is you've had 2 really full days in Athens when you arrived before the ship and when you come off the ship. So we asked them to do something outside of Athens into deeper countryside. So on day 11, they're going to do an excursion to Delphi. And Delphi is very famous in central Greece. This is a really good opportunity because you get into the mountains. It's north of Athens, approximately 2 hours. And this, if you've ever heard of the Oracle of Delphi, this is where the site is, and you will see the Oracle site. It is spectacular because it's all in the mountains. And it's a beautiful drive, completely different than being in Athens, to get outside and see more of Greece as opposed to the city. And that's the advantage of this experience on day 11. Then on day 12, another out of the city excursion goes to Corinth and the famous Corinth Canal. And believe it or not, our cruise ship can sail through this canal. Now they wouldn't, but they could, and ships have done it before. But the clearance is only like 3 feet on both sides of the ship. And it's going to go to Corinth, and then it's going to go to the most spectacular archaeological sites close in the western. It's called the Kingdom of Sparta. You saw the movie. It was the territorial lands of the city-state of Sparta that you saw from the movie, defending against the Turks. And it's going to go to Mycenae and the archaeological sites there, to Epidaurus, and the major stadium here. This stadium, it's hard to tell versus the one you saw in Kusadasi. This stadium seats more people than the Colosseum in Rome. And it's an optical illusion of its size in the photograph. It is humongous, but the optics of the picture do not reflect that. But this is actually bigger than the Colosseum. And then it finishes in Naftaleo, which is the coastal city. And this would be like Siena in Tuscany. This is the considered beautiful, beautiful city in Greece to walk, shop, and eat, along with the historic sites. And that's on day 12 in Athens. And then on day 13 is the last day of the trip, and they will transfer you from the hotel, regardless of what time your flight is. Again, David will ask you what time your departure is, and they will publish your transfer time seamlessly from the hotel to get you to the airport in ample time. So that's kind of a quick summary of the trip. A lot more conversation to come. Questions? Yes?
So the people that are going on the post tour, so when they're finished on the second island, then we go back to a hotel and...
That's right. You come back to the same hotel that you stayed at the beginning of the trip. So you will fly, you're going to fly, when you come off the ship, you're going to fly to Mykonos. There's no internal service between Mykonos and Santorini, so you'll fly Mykonos, Athens, Santorini. It's an easy flight still. You can't take the ferry, no. No, you can't. And then Santorini, you'll fly to Athens. You'll be transferred to your hotel for one final night in Athens, and then the next day you will be transferred to the airport.
So really, we're only a day longer than the rest.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
So we fly the 2nd of November and the 16th home.
That's right. And in your documentation, it'll outline all of that very specifically. All of the details will be.
One more question.
Sure.
On the ship, are gratuities paid or do we pay the gratuity? Do you know that?
I don't know that. I'll find out for you.
I'm going to call David tomorrow, but usually they say that beforehand and then it's not written anywhere, so I'm assuming that we have to pay the gratuity.
Yeah. You know, to be honest with you, I think we did get them to pay the gratuities.
Really?
For some reason, that's in my head. I'm not sure. I'll find out exactly for you. I can't tell you at this moment, but I for sure will do that. Other kinds of questions?
All the additional excursions from the cruise, is there a outline of the price of that?
Oh, I don't have it. The question was how much the excursions cost. I don't know. By the next meeting, the ship will have everything finished for us. And the ship, by the way, has all kinds of excursions. And just like a regular cruise, they may have 30 excursions in that port. What we've asked them to do is something very specific because we think this is the best choice for the amount of time that we have, and it be LGBT. So that was our parameters. And so what we're going to share with you is what we asked them to do specifically for Sunshine and our LGBT.
You will make recommendations of what you think we should select?
What the ship is going to do, we've already done that by saying we already know. For example, in Rhodes, I'm sorry, for audience at home, the question was, are we going to provide recommendations? By the way, I'll be traveling with you. Steve and Darren will be traveling, Faye will be traveling with you. Our recommendations we've already done. Like in Rhodes, we know that we would want I've been to Rhodes at least 5 times. You would want to go to the Acropolis and Lindos, the White City, and you would want to see the sightseeing combination of an orientation by coach and walking through the medieval city of Rhodes. We've already asked that with some specific requests because of the Sunshine LGBT group. So when we publish that next month, that is our recommendations. Because we, in our opinion, in my opinion, this, if I had 8 hours, this is what I would want to do for 8 hours. So we'll already do that for you. And then they have all kinds of other things. If you like sports stuff, if you want to go to beaches, if you want to do dining kinds of things, they'll do, like a cruise line does, they'll do all kinds of things, experiences that you can choose from. Other questions?
Dietary restrictions
On the ship works just like Faye's question was dietary restrictions. The ship works like every other cruise line in the world. If you have specific needs and requirements, the ship, like any ship, would be able to accommodate you. That becomes much more problemsome if you're vegetarian, for example, purely vegetarian. You get into more difficulties if you're eating in restaurants. Breakfast buffet at the hotel with breakfast included, because they don't deal with the dietary in the same way that the ship will. Ship, you'll have no issues at all. I don't expect we'll have any problems. And if you have very specific needs, you should bring those to David's attention so we can pass that along to make sure that they're clear. Yes?
The additional excursions, do we book them before or when we're on the ship?
I don't expect you'll be able to book them on the ship. Yeah, you'll have to do it in advance. Yeah. The question for home audience is, can you book these special excursions on the ship? I expect you will not be able to. And also, I know based on the seat requirement, because we're asking for very specific things for an LGBT group, it's going to get to that capacity of the coach, and then they'll cut it off because you can't go to another.
So when can we pay for this?
Oh, well, it's not a rush yet. The question is in pay. They've promised us that they will have it ready for our meeting in August. So you'll get it in advance of the meeting in August, so you can look at it, and then we can help you with answering questions about it. So in the next 3 weeks-ish, you'll see it. Yeah. And we're pretty ahead of the game. August, September, October, it'll be 3 months in advance. Yeah. Other questions? All right, one last thing that I would say is invite your friends and family. You'll help Sunshine if you do. It's a great opportunity for them.
That's the question. So we're seeing some other people coming in. What's the deadline? What's the drop dead date for anyone to sign up?
Availability on the ship. The ship, by the way, if you've gone to the website, the ship is, I think, somewhere between 85 and 92%. Full already, yeah. And it's because when they announced the ship, just people poured in. So it's just availability now at this point. And we would like these last guests to go to Sunshine than somebody else. And by the way, one other thing that I didn't say about the cruise, this will not be an American cruise. It will not be. It's a Greek flag company. English, well, you will have no problem with English on the ship, but it is designed for the European market. So you're going to have people from all over Europe, and what that will mean is you're going to hear lots of language, lots of announcements. It's frankly not designed for us. This cruise is not designed for us. We wanted to do this cruise because it was so spectacular, but it's not Holland America and Princess. You can sail in the Eastern Caribbean with Holland or Princess, and it's all us. But we like diversity, so, right? Okay, sir.
You know when you go on a cruise and they have your credit card?
Yeah, exactly the same way.
So will David automatically use credit card that we use to pay, or do we?
For what?
On the ship. So
Oh, no, I don't. The question is about your credit card. In general, let's just say broadly, Celestial works exactly the same way as Princess, Holland, Carnival. It works the exact same way. Likely, very likely, I do not know this, but very likely they're going to send you a pre-registration, and they do all of that, and then when you check in the pier, you're presenting your credit card, and that's how it works. And by the way, an interesting little factoid on this ship, I'm really fascinated to see, because this is the company in 2013 that did the first circumnavigation of Cuba for the American market. And they hosted an LGBT cruise on the cruise, and did 4 ports in Cuba. And then when Donald Trump went insane in 2016, it ended, and they made the decision to leave based on what was happening in Cuba. But they were required to do that cruise with 20% of the crew being Cubans. First time that had ever been done. And when the ship left, Celestial gave asylum, and Greece gave asylum to the entire cruise staff. And the Cubans sailed to Greece to be with the cruise line. Fall in love with Celestial Cruise Lines for doing that. More than half of them LGBT. So I can't wait to see if we, and I'm sure we will. They're going to be thrilled you are on this cruise. Americans, you're Miami. They're going to love that. Okay.
Now, how about Wi-Fi or drinks on drink pack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a drink package offered. I'm sorry, I'm not conversational about that because I didn't look at it yesterday.
It's included.
Yeah, I believe it is, but I haven't looked at it in a long time. But I believe alcohol is included for you. I think all your drinks are included, and you can probably do upgrades and stuff like that. And there is Wi-Fi aboard the ship. Although, if you have not sailed, Wi-Fi generally is not so great on a cruise ship. So I just prepare you for that in advance. But unless you're posting 600 pictures a day, oh wait, is there anyone in the room doing it? Oh, there's We're going to do this Abbott and Costello routine all through this trip, I assure you, right? Other questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to say, because I did go to Italy, and Al and Faye, and you're just so spectacular.
Oh, thank you.
You did it tonight, telling us about the cruise, and it's through the whole cruise. You take care of us.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And what? You're pointing, but I don't know. Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you very much. And at the end of the day, to his point about, Kevin, can I have just one more minute? At the end of the day, to his point about Italy and what will happen on this trip, and I mean this in all sincerity, I don't have to do this. I'm doing this because I want to. I want to for Sunshine Cathedral, and I want to for my friends. And so as a result, we're going to make sure that this is a great experience, because for me, the most expensive thing on this trip is my time. And so as a result, I want my time to be great, and I want your time to be great. And that's why we will do that. I assure you, we'll try to manage every single thing that comes up in a fun way. Somebody else had a question, Richard? Yes.
When our phones work, will we be able to take pictures with our phone?
You can take pictures and keep them on your phone. What normally happens, you should, for your long distance provider, reach out to them. It's not too early to do that, to find out and say, I'm going to Greece, Egypt, Cyprus, and Turkey. What happens on my long distance plan? And for example, Richard and I were just in Colombia. And for both of us, Verizon seamlessly says, here's our $10 a day plan. We're starting to give it to you, just accept, yes. And every day they re-ask us again, would you like another day at $10 a day? And we did that. And then we could use our phone, we could do text, we could use the internet if we were in data, whatever it might be. But ask your provider. I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah, all of the carriers will offer, and generally 10 a day. Sorry?
What about chargers and stuff?
Oh, thank you. That's something that we didn't, the question came up about power. They don't use US power. You're going to have a converter. Now, the converter, the European converter will work on the ship. Probably because it was built as Rhine-Dam, purpose-built for Holland America, US plug will work. Probably. I'm guessing. Probably.
But in the hotel it won't.
But it will not. In the hotel, you must have a converter.
And Amazon has them like 2 for like $20 or something.
Yeah, Faye just said converters 2 for $20 on Amazon. And you definitely need that because you're going to have power. If you have a sleep apnea machine, you need to make sure that you prepare extension cord for on the ship in terms of plugging in, etc. Power's a little bit different. Yeah. Okay, one last thing about anything on the trip and recommendations. People provide service, guides, whatever it will be. We'll tell you in advance, here's what we recommend you do gratuity-wise. And we won't leave any of that to chance. You decide whatever you want to do, but we're just telling you what a recommendation standard would be. But we'll make sure that we keep up with you every step of the way on that. Any other questions? Okay, so if no other questions, and for those at home, we thank you for joining us. We're going to do this again on August. Can somebody tell me what the first Thursday is? Does anybody know?
4.
August 4. August 3rd. Do I hear August 2nd? August 3rd? You're sure? Okay, very good. Thank you. August 3rd, we're going to do this at 6:30. I found on Italy that the closer we got to the trip, the better our little potluck got. So let's commit to, we'll up the ante just a little, and we'll spend more time socializing and getting to meet everybody. I'm going to push all of you together to make sure everybody gets to talk to each other. But August 3rd, we'll do it at 6:30, same thing. We'll definitely be talking about excursions, and then we'll start to get into more minutia detail. But the number one thing on August 3rd after excursions is our social interaction, because really at the end of the day we want you to land in Athens and get to that hotel and all of you already know each other by name. That's our goal for the next 4 months, right? That is the value of traveling with Sunshine Cathedral, because we want that experience. Because 2 of us standing side by side going, God, I really hate this. I'm glad I'm here, but I hate this. Or I'm loving this. And anything in between, that's the sauce for the goose when you travel. Okay? I hope. I know it will be. Okay, thank you.